On September 12, 2024, billionaire Jared Isaacman made history. He became the first civilian to lead a private spacewalk, stepping out of SpaceX's Dragon capsule high above Earth. This bold mission, called Polaris Dawn, marks a new chapter in space exploration. It aims to push the limits of what private companies can do in space and paves the way for future trips to the Moon and Mars. Let's explore this groundbreaking journey and the ambitious billionaire behind it. Understanding the Polaris program. Polaris Dawn is just the beginning. It's the first of 3 planned flights in the Polaris program. Jared Isaacman is funding this series of pioneering space missions, and the program has 2 main goals. First, it wants to quickly improve human spaceflight abilities. Second, it aims to raise money and awareness for important causes on Earth. The mission launched on September 10, 2024. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carried the crew from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. 4 people were on board. Number 1, Jared Isaacman as mission commander. Number 2, Scott Poteet, a retired Air Force pilot. Number 3, Sarah Gillis, a SpaceX engineer. And 4, Anna Menon, another SpaceX engineer. Their 5-day mission was packed with ambitious objectives that pushed the boundaries of commercial spaceflight. On the 3rd day, Isaacman and Gillies made history by conducting the first ever commercial spacewalk. They spent about 15 minutes each outside the Dragon capsule to test SpaceX's new spacesuits. The mission reached an impressive altitude of 870 miles above Earth, surpassing any crewed flight since NASA's Apollo moon missions over 50 years ago. Throughout their journey, the team conducted over 40 scientific experiments focusing on the effects of space on human health, including studies on radiation exposure and vision changes. They also tested cutting-edge communication technology using Starlink's laser-based system for rapid data transfer from orbit. Additionally, the mission evaluated various upgrades to SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft, paving the way for future enhancements. By successfully achieving these goals, Polaris Dawn has opened new doors for private space travel, demonstrating that commercial entities can now perform spacewalks and reach high orbits previously reserved for government space agencies. From dropout to space pioneer, Jared Isaacman, the 41-year-old leader of this mission, has an unusual background. He was born in 1983 in New Jersey. At just 16, he dropped out of high school to start a business. He founded United Bank Card, later renamed Shift, for payments in his parents' basement. The company helps businesses process payments and use point-of-sale systems. Through hard work, Isaacman grew Shift for payments into a big success. Today, the company handles over $260 billion in payments each year. Isaacman took the company public in 2020. He still owns 38% of it, worth about $1.8 billion. But Isaacman's interests go beyond business. He loves flying and became an expert pilot. In 2009, he set a world record for the fastest flight worldwide in a light jet in 61 hours and 51 minutes. He's also flown in air shows and competitions. In 2011, Isaacman started Draken International. This company owns the world's biggest and largest private fleet of military planes. Draken helps train pilots for the US military and other countries. Isaacman's first space mission was in 2021. He bought the first all-civilian orbital spaceflight from SpaceX. This mission, Inspiration 4, raised over $240 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and showed that private citizens could go to orbit. Now with Polaris Dawn, Isaacman is taking private spaceflight even further. By being the first civilian to do a spacewalk, he's showing his commitment to advancing space exploration. The crew and their training. While Isaacman leads the mission, Polaris Dawn's success depends on the whole team. Let's look at the other crew members. Scott "Kid" Poteet is the mission pilot. He used to be a lieutenant colonel in the US Air Force, and he has flown for over 3,200 hours in many types of aircraft. He was also the mission director for the Inspiration 4 flight. Sarah Gillis is a mission specialist. She works at SpaceX as a lead space operations engineer, and she has helped train both NASA and private astronauts on how to use the Dragon spacecraft. Anna Menon is also a mission specialist and medical officer. She works at SpaceX as a lead space operations engineer, and before that, she worked at NASA as a biomedical flight controller. Her husband, Anil Menon, is a NASA astronaut. This diverse team combines military flying experience, spacecraft knowledge, and medical expertise. They trained for over 2 years to get ready for this mission, and their training included number 1, lots of time in SpaceX mission simulators. Number 2, practice in high-altitude chambers to get used to low oxygen. Number 3, flights in zero gravity to feel what it's like in space. Number 4, time in centrifuges to prepare for the forces during launch and landing. Number 5, underwater training to practice spacewalks. And number 6, wilderness survival training in case they land in a remote area. They also had to learn to use complex scientific equipment for their experiments. This thorough training ensured they were ready for anything during their groundbreaking flight. Pushing the limits, the Polaris Dawn mission is a big step forward for private spaceflight. The key advances include the spacewalk tested SpaceX's new suits. These are designed to be more flexible than NASA's bulky suits. These new suits will be important for future commercial spacewalks and possible trips to Mars. By reaching 870 miles up, Polaris Dawn showed that private missions can go far beyond low Earth orbit. This opens up possibilities for future commercial trips to the Moon or even Mars. The mission gathered important data on radiation and the Van Allen belts. This will help design better protection for future deep space flights. Polaris Dawn tested new systems for the Dragon spacecraft. These include better life support and power generation. These improvements will allow for longer missions in the future. These missions successfully tested Starlink, a laser-based communication system that could revolutionize data transmissions from deep space. By achieving these goals, Polaris Dawn has greatly expanded what private spaceflight can do. It's setting the stage for even more ambitious private missions in the coming years. The future of private spaceflight. Polaris Dawn is just the beginning of Jared Isaacman's plans for advancing spaceflight. 2 more Polaris missions are already planned. Polaris Inspired. This mission will likely go even further into space. It might reach medium Earth orbit. It could include more complex spacewalks and test more new technologies. And Polaris Starship. The ultimate goal is to conduct the first crewed flight of SpaceX's Starship, and this huge, fully reusable spacecraft is designed to carry humans to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. The success of Polaris Dawn will likely inspire other private space projects. We might see number 1, more commercial spacewalks. Number 2, private space stations. Number 3, satellite repair services. Number 4, more investment in spaceflight technologies. Number 5, growth in space tourism. And number 6, partnerships between private companies and space agencies for Moon, Mars missions. Private spaceflight is taking off. Missions like Polaris Dawn show that private companies can now do things once only possible for government space programs. As costs go down and capabilities improve, we'll likely see a boom in commercial space activity. Jared Isaacman's journey from high school dropout to space pioneer is inspiring. His willingness to fund and fly on these groundbreaking missions is speeding up the development of space technologies. It's also inspiring a new generation to look to the stars. The images of Isaacman floating above Earth during his historic spacewalk are amazing, but it's important to think about what this means for the future. The Polaris Dawn mission isn't just about setting records, it's about expanding what's possible for humans in space. By pushing the limits of commercial spaceflight, Isaacman and his team are helping to write the next chapter in our journey beyond Earth. The success of Polaris Dawn raises exciting questions. How soon might we see regular commercial flights to the Moon? Could private missions to Mars become real in our lifetime? What new scientific discoveries might come from increased access to space? As we think about these questions, one thing is clear. A new era in spaceflight has begun, and visionaries like Jared Isaacman are leading the way. The stars have never seemed closer, and the possibilities have never been more exciting. This is just the beginning of humanity's next great adventure in space. Thanks for joining us in today's video about Jared Isaacman's Polaris Dawn mission, and if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Stay tuned for more.